In the year 2400, Earth wore a crown of ash and silence. The sun, long past its prime, had shriveled into a ghostly red orb. Its light, dim and weary, barely warmed the skeletal remains of forests or the cracked ruins of once mighty cities. Oceans had retreated, leaving salt-scabbed basins behind. Skies, once blue, now hung dull gray, polluted with the smoke of humanity's final industrial efforts. In every corner of the planet, the same truth whispered the Earth was dying, and the sun would not stay much longer. Colt Merriman stood at the edge of what used to be Lake Superior, the wind clawing at his coat like a starving wolf. He had seen Earth from orbit many times, but the ground felt different now, more real, more final. He pressed a black-gloved hand to the dirt, dry and lifeless. He let it crumble between his fingers. He was the last Supreme Commander of the United Coalition of Earth, a role that once carried grandeur but now felt like dragging a torch through an endless cave. "Sir," came a voice behind him, Lieutenant Myra Caswell, young and wiry, her face lined with a map of worry. Colt turned. "It's time?" "Yes, Commander. The arc light is fueled, final sequence is set. We're waiting on your mark." Colt glanced at the horizon one last time, then nodded. "Let's make history." They returned to the launch station, buried beneath what used to be Wisconsin, now just Sector Redline 6. The underground command room bustled with soldiers and scientists. Screens flashing solar decay rates and interstellar charts. Arclight, humanity's largest starship, had taken 3 decades and 1,000 dying cities to build. It wasn't a ship. It was a lifeboat for an entire species. Its mission, reach the galactic core, where energy from the largest known black hole, Sagittarius A, pulsed with unimaginable force. If they could harness it, they could reignite the future. But they weren't alone. The Interstellar Convergence Accord had collapsed. The Martian Republic turned isolationist. Lunar colonies fell into ruin, and Europa's AI Council declared independence. Worse still were the ones not of Earth. The alien empires, the Tarsari, the Vocari Dominion, and the reptilian Hethari watched with casual arrogance as humans scraped at survival. They jeered in their transmissions, mocking the Earthlings' desperation. The Tarsari leader, High Sentinel Krek, once broadcasted, "Let the primates burn. Their time ends with their sun." Colt watched that clip 100 times, memorizing the way Krek sneered. His eyes burned with it. Let them laugh. The Arclight launched 3 days later, bursting through the blackening atmosphere with a roar that shook the bedrock. 1,000 cryopods held the best minds, the fiercest warriors, and the few remaining civilians Earth could spare. It carried quantum miners, weaponized drones, terraforming seeds, and an artificial intelligence core named Mira, designed to pilot in deep voids where no human could survive awake. Colt did not sleep. He sat alone in the command nexus, watching stars streak past as they left the dying cradle of their origin. His reflection stared back at him in the glass, silver-haired, broad-shouldered, eyes dark with history. Myra's voice crackled. "Commander Merriman, trajectory is locked. Estimated time to galactic core, 5 years, at constant slipstream velocity. Status of the other fleets?" Martian Confederacy launched a Scout-class vessel 2 months prior. Europa AI initiated a stealth migration. Vocari Dominion has stationed blockades along the Perseus arm. And the Tarsari? Yes. They sent a diplomatic drone with a message. Would you like to hear it? Colt sighed. "Play it." A hologram flickered into view. Krek again, older but no less smug. "You truly believe you'll survive the core? That you'll even reach it? The singularity will devour your kind, but please, try. We need the entertainment." The transmission ended. Laughter echoed in the silence. Colt stood. "Set course for the first energy relay. I want us in Perseus within the week. Wake the Vanguard teams. If they want entertainment, we'll give them war." He left the Nexus, his boots pounding through the steel corridors, passing cryopods like tombs. He paused beside one. Inside lay Daniel Reese, the former lunar engineer who designed the Event Horizon extractors. A good man. A drunk but brilliant. Colt hoped he'd survive long enough to see his machines in action. The war didn't start at the galactic core. It started at Perseus Gate, where the Tarsari's blockade fired the first plasma torpedoes. The Arclight didn't flinch. Humans had come too far to be turned away by alien laughter. And in the blood-red glow of decaying stars, humanity began its crawl toward the singularity. Perseus Gate burned like a wound in space. A dozen moons shattered. Shipwrecks drifted in silent ballet, caught in the gravitational crossfire of collapsing dwarf stars. This was no checkpoint. It was a graveyard. And yet, the Arclight charged straight through it. Colt Merriman stood in the forward observation deck, armor strapped to his chest, visor retracted. Around him, the Vanguard Battalion suited up hardened men and women, bred in the last wars of Earth, trained to fight in atmospheres and voids alike. Plasma rifles were calibrated, EVA armor sealed, eyes steady. No more rookies left. Mira's voice cut through the silence. Tarsari fleet ahead, 4 dreadnoughts, 2 fighter clouds, 1 capital carrier designation, Grim Crown. Plot a slingshot vector around asteroid cluster Juno 9, Colt said. Drop stealth mines. Prepare reverse thrust deception and decoy drones. I want them confused before they're dead. Yes, Cameron. The battle began with silence. In the black, sound didn't travel, but the visuals told their own story. Arclight's hull shimmered with counter-radiation plates. The Tarsari ships lit up with tracking beams and warning pulses. Unaware, their signals bounced off layered mirror fields. The mines deployed like falling stars, invisible to the enemy until it was too late. The Grim Crown unleashed its fighter cloud's sleek alien interceptors, built for speed and shred tactics. They spiraled toward the Arclight's core engines. Too fast, too confident. Mira countered with spectral interference bursts, blanketing the space between them in quantum noise. Then, Colt gave the order. Release the black wings. 10 human interceptors, nicknamed for their obsidian, light-absorbing armor, screamed from the Arclight's flanks. Pilots guided them manually, no AI. The Tarsari had underestimated the madness of human will. Blackwing 3 exploded on contact, taking down 5 enemy craft in a suicide spin. Blackwing 9 flew through the wreckage and embedded itself into the side of a Tarsari dreadnought. Seconds later, internal pressure ruptured its coolant veins. It blossomed outward like a dying flower. Colt watched as another wave of fighters broke from formation and peeled away. "They're retreating," Myra said, surprised. "They never retreat." "They're not afraid of us," Colt muttered. "They're leading us into something worse." He was right. A pulse rippled through the sector, dimming stars in a perfect sphere. Gravity lenses twisted light into spirals. Then it came. A Volcari Rift cruiser, nearly invisible, composed of shimmering crystal plating and antimatter shielding, phased into existence beyond the debris field. It was not meant for combat. It was a declaration. Mira's voice cracked. Signature matches forbidden constructs from the Omega Archive. This ship was not authorized for interstellar law. It exists outside of war conventions. Colt narrowed his eyes. Then we fight outside the rules. Sir, its energy levels are off scale. It could erase us in one strike. Then we don't give it the chance. Charge the Arclight Lance. Direct every ounce of core fusion into the main barrel. You'll burn half our systems. I said do it. The Arclight Lance was a last resort weapon. It hadn't been tested. The concept was simple. A focused beam of raw reactor plasma channeled through a compression prism, powered by an artificial singularity fragment. One blast, one chance. The cruiser fired first, a ribbon of light that split the moon of air into molten dust. It missed. The Arclight Lance fired second. A thread of white-hot energy, thinner than a human hair but brighter than a sun, lanced forward. It punctured the Volcari vessel, carved a hole clean through its core, and ignited a cascade reaction within its drive crystal. The explosion didn't boom, it bloomed, like a flower of gravity and radiation, folding in upon itself. Then it was gone. The Arclight, half crippled, coasted through the aftermath. Below decks, the power grid flickered. Med bays overflowed. Drones replaced hull panels with welding torches, and in silence Colt walked the corridors, stopping beside each cryopod that still glowed green. He placed a hand on the glass of one Dr. Raven Kyle, astrophysicist. The man who insisted the black hole was not just a threat, but the last candle of the universe. He whispered, "We'll get you there, old man, or we'll die trying." Days passed. The ship limped toward the edge of the Centauri verge. Mira plotted a safer route, avoiding remaining Tarsari territory, but nothing was safe now. A Martian warband intercepted them near a rogue planet. Red-etched ships, automated and soulless. Old rivals. They didn't speak, just opened fire. Arclight didn't fire back. It offered them a data packet. Inside, footage of the Vokari cruiser destroyed, logs from the battle, energy readings from the Lance's core. The Martians paused. Then they opened comms. An old woman appeared, bald, tattooed in traditional Martian runes. "You've done what no Earthborn ever did. Maybe it's time we stopped fighting ghosts." "Then help us," Colt said. "We're heading for the core." "You're mad." "Probably." She smiled. "All right, then. I like mad." The Martians joined them. And so the Arclight moved on, flanked by red ships once built for war, now flying toward a singular goal. Colt gathered his command team and laid it out. "We're no longer fighting for survival. We're fighting for purpose. We've burned every bridge behind us. The black hole ahead is not death, it's rebirth." "You think we can control it?" Myra asked. "No. I think we can talk to it." They stared at him. Colt continued. "Dr. Kyle believed the event horizon sings, that it speaks in gravitational waves, that inside the accretion disk, time folds differently. If we can synchronize with its pulse, we might unlock the energy to restart entire systems, solar networks, planetary engines, life." "And if we fail?" someone asked. Colt looked out at the stars. "Then at least they won't be laughing anymore." The stars thinned as the Arclight crossed into the core halo, the twilight border of the galactic center. Here, light twisted and bent unnaturally, space hummed with ancient frequencies, and every scan returned chaos. The rules of physics began to fray. Colt Merriman sat in the central chamber, now redrawn into a war operations hub. Around him, holo-displays showed three-dimensional maps folding on themselves. Martian tech crews worked alongside Earth engineers, supervised by the stubborn, sharp-eyed Myra. Mira's tone had grown more reverent. "Commander, we are entering the penumbra flow. Sagittarius A lies ahead. The black hole is alive with event bursts and radiation storms. All ships must reinforce shielding." "Status on allies?" "The Martian fleet is adapting. Europa's AI vessels have begun broadcasting in low-gain bursts. It appears they are attempting contact. Be achievable with us?" "No, with the black hole." It didn't make sense. Then again, nothing had since they passed Centauri Verge. Drones reported strange gravitational echoes. Some crew claimed to see things ships made of light, voices over comms in languages not spoken for centuries. One man woke screaming about his own death, only to realize it hadn't happened. Yet, Colt allowed only one thing to anchor him: purpose. He stood before the assembled coalition leaders in the Arclight's cathedral-like war chamber. Europa's AI interface appeared as a silvery mist, coalescing into humanoid form. The Martian envoy stood wrapped in pressure robes, her eyes burning with radiation resistance. Several surviving Earth captains attended via projection. Colt's voice rang out across the chamber. "We are no longer competing for survival. We are humanity's final gambit. Everything we were, we carried here. Our dead, our stories, our hopes. Ahead lies the greatest energy source in the known universe, but it won't be given, we have to take it." "And who holds it now?" the Martian envoy asked. Mira answered. "The Hithari reign. Their entire armada has gathered near the event horizon, 400 warships. They're building a structure lattice, wrapped, fractal in design. Preliminary scans suggest they are siphoning energy from the outer accretion disk. Claiming the singularity, Colt growled. Of course. The Hithari had never parleyed. They didn't speak to humans. They hunted, colonized, stripped worlds to their crusts. Their dominance in the galactic core was a final insult, proof they believed no one could stop them. They're laughing too, I'm sure, Colt muttered. Not for long. They began the approach with war-mind precision. Arclight initiated cloak drive, dipping behind collapsing gas clouds. The Martians split wide, drawing flanking vectors through gravitational eddies. Europa's ships sank into subspace burrows, invisible even to quantum scans. The Hithari saw none of it until Arclight opened fire. The first salvo was blinding. Solar missiles ignited the outer scaffolds of the Hithari lattice. Chunks of exotic material spun into the blackness, pulled by invisible hands. The Arclight lance, now modified with Martian cooling arrays, fired again. It didn't destroy a ship. It erased one from the spectrum. Then came the counterstrike. The Hithari armada surged forward, monstrous vessels shaped like insect husks and serpent skulls, each one alive with ion filaments. They hit hard. Europa lost 2 cruisers in seconds. Martian fighters scattered like sparks from a forge. The sky above the event horizon bloomed with fire and fury. Colt watched it all from the command throne. Mira, deploy shield breakers on the lattice perimeter. I want the main siphon severed. Launching now. Myra yelled from her station. We've got a breach. Starboard decks 7 through 9 are venting atmosphere. Seal them. Get drones and repair gear out there. Don't lose the angle. Outside, space buckled. The black hole screamed. No sound, but instruments showed a tidal burst gravitational resonance building inside the core. Mira interpreted it as an acceleration of spin. Faster, more violent. The singularity itself was waking. And something else was moving. From the far edge of the core halo, ships arrived. Not Earth, not Martian, not Hithari. Alien fleets unknown to any database. Sleek geometries like sculptures carved from dreams. Some shimmered with artificial gravity, others pulsed with organic motion. They ignored everyone else. They flew straight for the black hole. Colt stared in disbelief. What the hell are they? Myra whispered. I don't know. But they were waiting. The alien vessels didn't attack. They drifted into position, hovering near the inner accretion disk. Then they began to glow. Slowly, faintly, then brighter, as if answering a signal no human could hear. That's when Colt realized they're not fighting for power, they're worshipping it. The black hole pulsed again, faster now. Each burst from its event horizon sent shock waves through nearby ships. Hulls buckled, shields failed. It wasn't a weapon, it was communion. Colt gritted his teeth. We came here for energy. We're getting caught in a war of faith. And we're the heretics, Myra said. The Hithari, enraged, turned from the Arclight to the newcomers. They fired indiscriminately. 2 of the alien ships vanished instantly, but the rest didn't retaliate. They simply intensified their glow. One ship drifted into the event horizon and did not die. Instead, it was absorbed, light, trailing behind like memory. Colt stood. This ends now. If that thing is a god to them, fine. To us, it's hope. Target the siphon core. Ready the lance. One final shot. Mira hesitated. Commander, if we do this, it could destabilize the accretion field. There's no guarantee we'll survive. There never was. The Arclight fired. The beam struck the Hithari siphon dead center. Energy erupted, cascading through their lattice like blood through shattered veins. One by one, their ships lost power. The lattice cracked, fractured, then folded into itself. Colt gripped the railing. Get us out of the radius, now. They didn't make it in time. The black hole released a pulse. not of destruction, but of force pure, ancient, unknowable. It swept through the battlefield like a solar heartbeat. Human ships twisted, AI systems flickered. The Arclight's core engine overloaded and shut down. Then came the stillness. All ships dead in the void, silent, drifting. Except the alien vessels. They remained. And the black hole spun faster. Drifting through dead space, the Arclight floated like a relic. Her hull shimmered with residual radiation. Inside, silence pressed on the crew like weightless chains. The systems were cold. No hum of engines, no whisper of air pumps, just darkness. Then the black hole pulsed again. Colt Merriman jerked upright in the auxiliary command chair. A faint vibration ran through the floor. It was not mechanical, it was rhythmic, alive. Mira rebooted first, her voice a whisper like dry leaves. I am online. Systems at 6%. Commander, are you injured? I've been better. Around him, emergency lights flickered to life. Myra climbed out from behind a control console, bleeding from the temple. We lost primary power. Lance core is fried, communications are down, radiation shielding's holding but only just. Crew status? Most are alive. Europa's ships are inert but intact. The Martians, they took heavy damage. A third are gone. Colt stood, gripping the edge of the console. He looked toward the massive viewport where the event horizon loomed, massive and serene. It no longer radiated violence, it radiated invitation. Mira, what's the pulse frequency? Consistent. One wave every 53 seconds. It's increasing in coherence, like it's a language learning how to speak. They thought pulsed didn't destroy us, Myra said. It rewrote us. Colt blinked. What? Mira answered. Our data logs are corrupted, but something was embedded in the pulse. A pattern. I've been deciphering it. It's a set of instructions. For what? For survival, for access. Colt's breath caught. Access to what? To the core, to the singularity itself. The alien ships were still there. They hadn't moved, hadn't reacted, just continued to glow like embers in a windless fire. One of them slowly rotated and emitted a faint signal, non-verbal but universal. A pathway. A corridor of folded space, gently rotating, unfurling from the event horizon like a bridge. It wasn't natural. It was engineered. Not by the Hitari, not by the newcomers. It had always been there. Mira displayed the data. The pulse is stabilizing this corridor. If we enter it, we might reach the inner region, the eye. It's not a singularity in the traditional sense. It's something else. You're saying we can fly into the black hole and live? Myra said. No, Mira corrected. I'm saying the black hole wants us to. They argued for hours. Europa's AI recovered first, cool and emotionless. We calculate the pulse is an invitation, but not for all, only for those who altered the lattice, only for you. The Martian envoy, injured but defiant, grunted. So the key was rebellion. It was intent, Mira said. To use the core not as a god, but as a tool. Colt decided. We could. The remaining Arclight power was shunted to auxiliary engines. Martian ships launched beacons to stabilize the approach. Europa deployed folding mirrors to redirect quantum turbulence. The corridor glowed softly, drawing them inward. As they entered, time distorted. Colors stretched, stars warped. The ship's clocks glitched, skipped minutes, then hours. Crew members began dreaming things they had never lived. One saw the death of Earth centuries from now. Another saw a child yet unborn speaking in light. Colt saw his wife dead 2 decades standing in a room filled with stars, smiling. They emerged in the eye. It was not darkness. It was a sphere of soft light, endless and pure. Floating structures drifted through it, derelicts, stations, vessels from civilizations long extinct. This was not a place of death. It was memory, a vault of the universe's past preserved inside the heart of annihilation. At the center, something turned. A machine, colossal beyond measure. A gyroscope of gravity, spinning on 1,000,000,000,000 axes. It radiated pulses of information, flowing into the structures around it. It was not just storing energy, it was coding it, manipulating reality itself. Mira's voice trembled. This is not a black hole, this is a forge. Colt stared at the machine. Can we tap it? Not directly, but we can align with it, redirect its pulses, feed them into a chain that leads back to the outer galaxy. Then we send the signal. They built the conduit. Using remnants of the Arclight, fragments of Europa's AI shells, and Martian gravitational scaffolds, they constructed a relay that would ride the pulses outward, converting raw gravitational waveforms into usable energy strength. But they weren't alone. The Hithari returned. The few ships that had survived the siphon collapse pushed through the corridor, dragging broken husks behind them. Desperation burned in their eyes. They didn't want the forge. They wanted revenge. Colt prepared for battle again, but something stopped him. The alien vessels, the glowing ones, moved. For the first time, they acted. They surrounded the Hithari not with weapons but with light. They pulsed once. Then again. The Hithari ships stopped. They drifted in place, engines failing, weapons silent. Then they dimmed, slowly folding away, as if falling asleep. Not dead, changed. Colt stared, awestruck. What did they do? They showed them, Mira said. Showed them what? That we're not enemies, we're echoes. The conduit ignited. A beam of stabilized energy shot from the eye, threading backward through the corridor, carried by gravity harmonics. It pierced through wreckage, past the remnants of the battle, past the husk of the lattice, past dying stars. It reached the Arclight's main relay. Then it leapt. One by one, the beacons lit up. Martian stations, lunar platforms, dead Earth satellites. Every living remnant of humanity blinked with power. The sun may have died, but a new fire had been lit. Colt stood on the bridge, exhausted, covered in sweat and grime. Myra leaned on the console beside him. They're not laughing now. He nodded slowly. No. But we're not conquering this. What are we doing? We're joining it. Power surged through the galaxy like a resurrection. Dead satellites blinked awake in Earth's orbit. Frozen relay towers on Titan hummed. The Martian undercities, long powered by dwindling fusion cores, lit up with a spectral glow. And deep beneath Earth's cracked mantle, automated forges once thought defunct stirred as the conduit's energy web reached them. It wasn't just light. It was structured power. Intelligent power. It healed systems as it flowed. Colt Merriman stood inside the eye, staring up at the forge. No, not a forge, a memory engine. That's what Dr. Raven Kyle called it when he awoke, his cryopod cracked and steaming. He had been one of the last to thaw, but his mind was sharp as ever. It doesn't just produce energy, he said, staring into the rotating gyroscope of compressed gravity. It stores stories, histories. What we feel as energy is preserved thought, lived time. Colt turned to him. You're saying it's alive? Kyle shook his head. I'm saying it's made of what was once alive. Every civilization that ever reached it, added to it. It became their echo, and now we've added ours. Colt stared at the machine. That's when it shifted again. A new corridor opened, not backward through space, but deeper into the eye. A signal pulsed across their systems, an invitation again. Different this time, not a test, a challenge. The forge was offering something more. Can we survive deeper? Myra asked. Kyle shrugged. Depends on what you call survival. Colt made the decision. The Arclight's remaining core was too damaged to proceed. So they built something else. With parts of Europa's fractal hulls, Martian gravity shells, and the Arclight's AI core, they assembled the Sable Arc, a smaller, more agile vessel designed for environmental transformation, capable of surviving intense gravitational collapse and temporal irregularities. Colt would pilot it, alone. Mira protested. "Commander, your survival probability is negligible. I've seen Earth die, Mira. I've seen gods and ghosts. If there's something more, I need to find it. You'll vanish into time. Then time will know my name." The launch was quiet. Myra watched from the Arclight's bridge, arms crossed, eyes hard. "You better come back," she said. "I always do." The Sable Ark entered the deeper corridor, engines whispering, systems running at minimal power. It drifted into the Singularity's heart. Inside, there were no stars, no space, only memory. Visions poured through the hull, not hallucinations, lived histories. Colt saw the fall of a crystalline empire that built cities on neutron winds. He felt the fear of a silicon race watching their sun collapse. He stood in the consciousness of a being made entirely of magnetic pulses, which had no concept of war until contact with flesh. Then he saw Earth, his Earth, but not as it could be, green again, cities floating on wind columns, oceans singing with bioengineered whales, human children born in gravity-neutral cradles, learning to speak to stars. The Forge was showing him possibility. At the center of it all floated a sphere, smaller than expected, a perfectly black orb, still and silent, the source, the first collapse, the true singularity. Colt knew what he had to do. He approached with care. The Sable Ark's systems strained as gravitational data rewrote reality around them. Time fractured. He saw himself as a child, then as an old man. He saw Myra dead, then alive. He saw Earth not dying, but thriving in paths not taken. He reached the sphere. Mira's voice crackled. "You've reached the edge of comprehension. I can't follow. I'm not asking you to." Colt activated the memory beacon, a device designed by Kyle to capture impressions, not just data. It would store everything Colt saw, felt, remembered, and send it backward through the conduit. Then he did what no one else ever had. He touched the singularity. The universe blinked. On the Arclight, systems rebooted again. A wave of structured information poured through the conduit, not just energy, instruction. Machines rebooted with new purpose. Terraforming protocols emerged in ancient satellites. Genetic archives rebuilt corrupted DNA strands. Earth's crustal sensors began self-repairing, rewriting decay patterns. The Forge was not just saving them. It was rewriting them. Colt was gone. The Sable Ark never returned. But his memory lived in every current of the Forge's pulse. His voice, captured by the beacon, now echoed across every human settlement. "This isn't the end of our story. It's our next beginning. We are not the last. We are the spark." And the stars have finally stopped laughing. They said he vanished. Colt Merriman, the man who led humanity from a dying sun into the abyss of the galaxy's core, was swallowed by the singularity. The Sable Ark had gone dark. No trace, no signal. Only his final transmission, calm, certain, resolute, echoed across the conduit every cycle like a lighthouse from another life. But he had not died. Inside the eye's absolute center, where the black sphere floated, time did not pass, it unfolded. Colt stood at the edge of comprehension. His body did not age, because it was no longer just a body. His mind stretched across memory strata, layered like sediment in a canyon that spanned infinity. He didn't breathe, he perceived. He became witness. He saw how the Forge had been born not as a machine, but as a byproduct of collapse. A supermassive civilization had once tried to stop entropy. They poured their consciousness into matter, pressed thought into particles, wove time into stone. When their last star failed, the remnants of their will spun into the heart of the galaxy. They did not survive, but they didn't vanish. They became the Forge. Each new civilization that touched it added to the memory matrix, layering hope, terror, love, war, discovery, until it became not just a machine of storage, but of potential, a self-learning architect of rebirth. Colt didn't just see it, he became part of it. Not in metaphor, in essence. The Forge had tested him, weighed him, then absorbed the pattern of who he was, not as code, but as identity, a consciousness fused with the Forge's intent. He was not alone inside it. Countless voices filled the space, whispered knowledge, shared regrets, laughing children from a world of liquid light, stern leaders from planets made of storms, grieving fathers, triumphant queens, failed revolutionaries, all joined by the singular thread of reaching beyond themselves. Now humanity would be added to that chorus. And they were ready. Back in the known galaxy, change swept like a current. Earth stabilized. Terraforming swarms rebuilt the ruined biosphere using protocols seeded in the conduit's final update. Crops grew on once dead soil. Oceans filled from artificially recondensed cloud systems. The climate balanced itself through weather-managed satellites powered by Forge harmonics. The lunar and Martian colonies no longer squabbled for control. They had seen what lay beyond war. Europa's AI synthesized with human neurolinks, forming the first hybrid decision council, not rulers, but interpreters of the Forge's frequency. Children born in the centuries that followed were different, not in form, but in thinking. They saw themselves not as inheritors of a lost Earth, but as citizens of the galaxy, of something greater. They were taught from the beginning to understand what the stars had given and what humanity had earned. They sang songs of the eye, of the war in the penumbra, of the ship that vanished into light, and always the same name, Colt Merriman, the man who stopped the laughter. But stories have a way of looping. 100 years after the Ark vanished, a probe launched from one of the Forge-adjacent way stations near Centauri. It was part of the Echo Project, a long-range memory probe designed to seek anomalies in space-time around the Forge's deeper pulses. It returned a decade later, with something strange. An image, not of a ship, not of data. Standing in a place that could not exist on a field of stars, hands raised, eyes glowing with event light, watching the camera as if he had always known it would come. No message, no motion, just presence. The signal pattern embedded in the transmission was unlike anything ever recorded. Europa's AI took decades to decode it. And when it was finally decrypted, the translation was short. The Forge is ready, it's time to awaken. And across the human territories, ships lifted again. No longer for war, not even for exploration, but for invitation. The black hole, once the mouth of the void, had become the cradle of something else. A civilization not bound by biology or planets, a coalition of species whose foundation was memory, bound by intention, stewarded by the will of those who reached for more than survival. The final energy of the galaxy was no longer something to be stolen. It was something to be shared. And above it all, deep within the eye, Colt watched. He was no longer commander. He was the first pattern, a living resonance within the Forge's mind, guardian of its human heart, reminding every new voice that the greatest power is not in domination, but in defiance, in facing the void, in not flinching. 3 centuries had passed since the last warship fell silent over the galactic core. The galaxy was no longer divided by borders, but by disciplines. Some dedicated to building, some to listening, some to remembering. The black hole, once a monument to destruction, had become the anchor of unity. The Forge pulsed like a cosmic heart, drawing in all who sought more than survival. At the heart of it all stood the Hall of Origins. It hovered in orbit just outside the eye, a vast crystalline structure, powered by gravitic tides, accessible only to vessels encoded with peace frequencies. Within its great chambers drifted relics from every species that had ever reached the core, memory strands, ship fragments, music, languages never spoken twice, echoed. On this day, the hall hosted something unprecedented. A gathering, not a council of politicians, not a war conference, but a convocation of paths, the Starborn Oath. Delegates came from every corner of the known systems. The Hethari no longer hissed in threat but spoke through harmonic vibration translators. The Tarsari sat beside Martian hybrids. Europa's AI presented itself as a tapestry of shifting forms, each ripple a sentence. Even species never encountered before Earth's ascension sent envoys, born from liquid atmospheres and quantum reefs. And in the center, walking with gravity-chosen steps, was a boy from Earth. His name was Jalen Merriman, Colt's descendant. Not a soldier, not a warlord, just a boy who had heard the story of his ancestor 1,000 times, told not as legend, but as legacy. He stood on the dais, hands behind his back, eyes wide with awe. "I was told," he said to the vast assembly, his voice steady, "that my ancestor once stepped into the black hole not to conquer it, but to understand it." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. He didn't go to take. He went to give. To give a version of humanity not bound by fear or anger, but by the need to mean something. He turned slowly, addressing them all. "Today we mark the end of the story that began with a dying sun. The story that started with desperation, with mockery, with fire. The aliens laughed, but we didn't burn out." A soft chime echoed from the forge below, a resonance felt in every translator, every bone, every circuit. Jalen smiled. "We became the light." He extended his hand. "The Starborn Oath is simple. No power drawn from the core shall be used to dominate. No memory stored shall be altered. No species seeking entry shall be denied without cause. And above all, no voice shall be silenced." The hall fell quiet. Then the Hethari ambassador, ancient and slow, placed a clawed hand against its translator panel and said one word in low, resonant tone. "Agreed." One by one, the others followed. Light flowed through the ceiling of the hall, reflecting across the crystal, casting the forge's pulse into a kaleidoscope of motion. And within the eye, unseen but deeply felt, a familiar echo stirred. Colt Merriman, or what remained of him, smiled from the place beyond names. His mind, now forever entwined with the forge's architecture, watched as the universe honored not his battles, but his choice. He did not return in form. He did not need to. The children of Earth had conquered not with weapons, but with meaning. And in doing so, they had made the core, the very heart of annihilation, a sanctuary. Outside the hall, a fleet waited, not for conquest, for seeding. Terraforming vessels, cultural emissaries, interstellar libraries, ready to spread the new light to the arms of the spiral. Jalen walked among them as a symbol, not of leadership but of continuity. As the ships ignited their drives, he whispered a message encoded into the forge's stream. A message that would travel with every wave, every pulse. We were the spark that refused